From you I receive, to you I give, together we share, and from this we live. That simple song holds a profound message. It speaks of relationship, of reciprocity, of mutual flourishing, themes that are, as Heather let us know, are themes that are in this also just beautiful small book, The Serviceberry by Robin Wall Kimmerer. Who else read this here, just out of curiosity, show of hands? Really recommend it. It is packed full, and I'm only going to be able to share some of the highlights. But Robin Wall Kimmerer is a botanist, and she's also a member of the Citizen Potawatomi Nation. And in all of her writings and in all of her speaking, she's always drawing from lessons from plants, thinking of plants as teachers, both as a scientist and a botanist, and also from an indigenous perspective and worldview. So one of her books, her well-known book, Braiding Sweetgrass, she weaves together these two ways of knowing. And that continues in the serviceberry, right? You may or may not be familiar with serviceberries, or you may have heard of the plant or the berries by different names. It's a very plentiful tree and shrub found throughout the northern hemisphere. There's like 9 different varieties. And serviceberries are sometimes called, or the serviceberry trees are sometimes called shadbush or shadwood, because the fish, the shad, would often be near the trees, and the tree operates as a calendar, so you could tell by how the tree looked when the shad were going to be plentiful. And the berries themselves are sometimes called June berries or wild plum or sugar plum. So in her book, in this book, Robin Wall Kimmerer is picking serviceberries, and she begins reflecting on these themes of abundance and gratitude and the lessons to be learned from the serviceberry. Then all flourishing is mutual is one of the core lessons that she continues to revisit as she's throughout the book. And a way of being with one another that she calls the gift economy, that relies on recognizing the gifts around us, receiving those gifts with gratitude, and then sharing those gifts with others in mutual flourishing. Now, this stands in stark contrast to some of the systems we're more familiar with, where things are commodified, where things have a price, where there's systems of extraction, where individual consumption and accumulation that is depleting the world around us. And she asks this question, that if our systems are destroying the things that we love, is it time to think about other types of systems? And is that gift economy, that serviceberry economy that exists in nature, provide us some clues for how we may act differently? There's this sacred teaching story among the Potawatomi and among other Algonquin nations about this malevolent spirit called the Wendigo. And the Wendigo can possess people with an insatiable hunger and greed. When a person becomes possessed by the Wendigo, they become isolated, and they only live for themselves, and they consume all that they can at the expense of others. Their great greed causes famine, and in some versions of the story, they become cannibals, consuming those around them. And besides being kind of a scary horror story, or has those flavors to it, it is a teaching story. It's a teaching story that warns against greed and warns against overconsumption. And so she describes it in this way. The indigenous philosophy of the gift economy, based on our responsibility to pass on those gifts, has no tolerance for creating artificial scarcity through hoarding. In fact, the monster in Potawatomi culture is Wendigo, who suffers from the illness of taking too much and sharing too little. It is a cannibal whose hunger is never sated, eating through the world. Wendigo thinking jeopardizes the survival of the community by incentivizing individual consumption and accumulation far beyond the satisfaction of enoughness. Contemporary Wendigos who cannibalize life for accumulation of money need their own name. Perhaps Darren would fit. And so she uses that name, Darren, throughout the book, but I think maybe perhaps a better name might be Elon, or rather than Darren, or perhaps a Musk. We could call them a Musk. The Wendigo thinking and the Wendigo economy is based on the belief that there's not enough for everyone. So I need to make sure that I have more. And according to Kimmerer, one effective antidote to this type of thinking is the practice of gratitude. Taking time each day to recognize what in our lives we are grateful for adds to our own sense of happiness and satisfaction. But psychologists also believe that that practice of gratitude can actually help curb our craving for hyperconsumption. So in the service, Barry Kimmerer encourages us to combine this practice of gratitude with a practice of reciprocity. And that's the nature of the gift economy, to recognize that nature is filled with abundant gifts. What if, she asks, if the Department of Natural Resources was renamed the Department of Earthly Gifts? How would that change our thinking? How would that change our relationship with the natural world? And again, just an excerpt from the book. To name the world as a gift is to feel your membership in the web of reciprocity. It makes you happy and it makes you accountable. Conceiving something as a gift changes your relationship with it in a profound way, even though the physical makeup of the thing has not changed. A woolly knit hat that you purchase at the store will keep you warm regardless of its origin. But if it was hand knit by your favorite auntie, then you are in relationship to that thing in a very different way. You're responsible for it. And your gratitude has motive force in the world. You're likely to take much better care of the gift than that of the commodity hat, because the gift hat is knit of relationship. This is the power of gift thinking. Imagine if we acknowledge that everything we consume is the gift of Mother Earth. We would take better care of what we are given. So these gift economies are based on shared abundance and giving things away. Examples, some real life examples, is if you drive down the road and you see the little free libraries that are popping up. An example of a gift economy. Or if you've driven by a free farm stand. One example that came to mind as I was reading it, I remember in the neighborhood I grew up, it was very much a working class kind of a neighborhood. My dad was a door-to-door insurance salesman back in the day when they had such a thing. The home we grew up in was one that was built from his GI Bill benefits because he was a World War II veteran. And this was back rather than when a whole subdivision would grow up all at once, one house would come in at a time, right? And so as additional houses came in, there was the next door neighbor who worked in a factory. There was the gentleman who owned a small party store in town. each home arrived one at a time. And something that emerged in our neighborhood is everybody started gardening, but we would grow different things in our gardens so that we could swap with each other, right? So there would be these conversations that would happen between the neighbors of who was growing what. And so in the fall, when there was the big harvest, we'd always have a big neighborhood picnic where we shared some of those things, but then made sure that everybody got what they needed. Canning things was a big family event, a big assembly line. There were 5 of us. All of that would be the gift economy in real life, right? So I want you to think about, what are some of the examples of gift economies that you can think of that you've either seen or that you've been part of in the past or that you're part of now? And I'll play Phil Donahue and pass the mic so we can hear from some folks besides me. Gift economies examples. Who's got one?
I'm just thinking of baby clothes. I was so lucky. I didn't have to buy anything. And then I, gifted them on to the next person. So that was a big help.
Yes. And folks online can share as well if anything comes to mind.
Potluck dinners.
Yes.
I donate a lot of different things to Sparrow's Nest, and I also shop there.
Our chalice circles are actually a huge gift of reciprocity. Every time we get together, we bring our own stories and understandings to each and share it with each other. And it expands each of us to be more deeply embedded in community with one another and a mirroring and understanding of who we are.
Thank you. So it's something we're familiar with, but what she's suggesting is that that's something we can think about growing even more intentionally. She doesn't offer like a simple solution like, oh, we're going to do these things and now magically this whole extractive economy is going to go away. But she compares it to the way that ecosystems change. And the way that ecosystems change there's 2 ways. One is incrementally, things that grow and become sustained. And the other is in things that disrupt. And every time we step outside of the market economy and fill those gaps with a creative alternative that does both those things. It's an incremental change, but it's a disruptor. So taking that just a step further, I'd invite you to just pair up in small, like 2s or 3s, people that are near you, and what are some of the gift economies that you're aware of or part of or would like to be part of that you would like to care for and nurture? Would like to care for and nurture. So talk about that amongst yourselves a little bit. take just one more minute. All right. Let's thank you so much. Keep this conversation going, either during fellowship or on other future times that we gather, or phone calls, or but let's keep this conversation going. I know we won't be able to hear from every person or every group, but just a couple examples that people would like to call out. Anything that came up in your, go ahead, Alan.
We were talking about public services. One was public library, and then it was the park system.
The public library and park system, both as examples, and then things that need our care and our support, and ways that we can connect and making sure that those things continue to flourish and thrive. Other things that came up in your conversation?
Talk about the Buy Nothing website. Buy Nothing on Facebook for every city. It's got it for every city, and we give stuff all the time and sometimes pick up stuff.
Yes, so the Buy Nothing that's on Facebook or websites, and there's a lot of these kind of grassroots opportunities for connecting around either here's something that I have to give, the free cycles, or different ways that we can actually use social media in a positive way, right? Robin Wall Kimmerer gives this example from some of her family members that they live in an urban neighborhood where there are plenty of curmudgeons growling at kids to stay off their lawns. So they converted their once tiny little yard to a garden of berries and patches of flowers, and put up a welcome sign for the kids in the neighborhoods to come on in and find a handful of berries and pick a bouquet to take home. They converted their private yard to a common space. The currency of this gift economy is relationship, and a neighborhood where people know each other's names, even the curmudgeons. And she ends with an invitation that I'd like to just share with all of us. In the spirit of the reciprocal gift economy, you might consider how you can reciprocate the gifts of the earth in your own way. Whatever your currency of reciprocity, be it money, time, energy, political action, art, science, education, planting, community action, restoration, acts of care, large and small, all are needed in these urgent times. You're invited to become a member of the gift economy on behalf of people and the planet. So I would invite us to stand, and Ron is going to lead all of us together in singing from You I Receive, to You I Give. And I'd like to ask, rather than everybody facing the front, if this side of the room would face that way, and this side of the room would face that way, so we're singing it to one another.
All right, well, let's sing together. From you I receive, to you I give, together we share, and from this we live. From you I receive, to you I give, together we share, and from this we live.
Right. All right, you could have a seat. Amen. Ashe, and blessed be.